For my beautifully restored IBM AT5170, I got this old Microsoft serial mouse, but I feel it doesn't quite fit in with the aesthetic of that machine. And so I got this model here, which is an IBM mouse that I think fits a little bit more in with the aesthetic and the design of the machine. Now, one of the problems is that unlike the Microsoft mouse, this has a PS2 connector. So fortunately, I have one of these adapters that translates that into the serial port. So let's open this up, get it cleaned up, and try and get it hooked up with the computer and see if it works. Okay, I already took out the bottom screws, some simple Phillips screws, and this is missing one of the Teflon stripes, so I'll have to find a replacement for that. And there's a little bit of dirt around here that needs to be cleaned up, so we'll get to that. Now let's open this up. Simple screw. Moving this over gets the ball out. So we'll try and separate the plastic pieces from the rest of the components as much as possible to give them a good wipe down and clean. So we'll set these aside to give them a good scrubbing on the bath and take out the mechanism here. Looks like there's a little bit of dust in here, but nothing too gross. The capacitor seems okay, no bloating, no sign of leakage, although it probably will have to be replaced at some point. And the rollers inside, you can see that, look relatively clean. So I don't know if this has been cleaned before it was sold, but we'll give this a brief wipe down anyway. And yeah, this seems to be in pretty good shape. All we have to do is some surface cleaning for the plastic housing and the ball, and then the cable also is pretty filthy, so we'll probably wipe this down with some Windex. That should get it cleaned up. And yeah, doesn't look like there's an awful lot to do here to get this back into a nice shape. To clean this up, I'll give it a little spritz with isopropyl alcohol, and then I'll use this anti-static brush and give it a brief going over. That should dislodge and get rid of most of the dust in here. And then what I like to do is I'll use some contact cleaner and briefly go into the connector here and then clean that out again as well. And do the same with the actual plug. Now, something that you might want to consider is adding a little bit of oil onto some of the mechanisms where those rollers are, but it looks like there's no squeaking or any issues, trouble moving them, so this should be okay. All I'll do with the inside where the mouse ball goes is, I'll use a little bit of IPA on a cotton bud and clean out that inside area and the rollers a little bit, although they seem pretty clean and there is nothing really on those. So yeah, those look pretty good. Now, if there was some dirt on those rollers on the inside, what you can do is either use like a metal spatula or a scalpel or a plastic one if you want to be more careful, and just gently scrape off the dirt from those rollers as you rotate them. That usually gets off any sort of crud that's stuck on there. You can soak it in a little bit of IPA first to try and dislodge it a little bit, but again, this is pretty clean, so no need for that on this one. And then good old Windex to rescue, to try and clean some of the dirt off of the cable. Don't know if you can see that, but there's some sort of black staining on here, so I just sprayed some on this rug and I'll try to gently wipe this up and down, see if that comes off. And this might take a while, so I won't bore you with an endless amount of cable cleaning. I'll be right back. So all of this is back from the kitchen where I've given this a good scrub and it's squeaky clean. Unfortunately, the last remaining Teflon strip came off as well, so we could glue that back on, but we need a second one anyway, since this has two places where that needs to be. So what I've ordered as a replacement is this tape here, and I think it's some polyethylene or similar material, and what that is typically used for apparently is to get drawers to slide in and out of their tracks more easily. So it's a simple tape with a very smooth surface and a sticky side, and that simply needs to be cut into size here and put back on. It's very thin, so I've already put this on the underside here, and it barely raises above the groove where it sits in. So for this one here, it works. For others, where this is a little bit deeper, you might have to put 2 layers or something else in between to make this work. So what works is I'll use a little piece of that, and I'll use my scissors to cut that, and it just happens to be right about the right size. When I cut this through the middle, I get 2 pieces. I roughly fill up this groove here. That is number 1, and then the other one probably overlaps a little bit, but we'll just cut it to size with a scalpel once that is in place. And it does overlap a little bit, so I'll make a little cut here to get the excess out, and be careful when you use that instrument. And that should do the trick. And it's still a little bit too much material, so I'll cut off a little piece. Don't want to damage the plastic. Okay, so this now sits in here nicely and will enable the mouse to slide around on its mouse pad nicely. Now that we've that done, get rid of the excess, we can put this beauty back together. So we have the board, which is nice and squeaky clean, and that mounts in here, and I don't recall if that had any screws in it, but I don't think so. The only 4 screws would be coming from underneath. So we have to plug in the cable, which goes in like this. And then we'll simply put the top back on. And actually, okay, that's it on here. Checking the click for the buttons works. And then we'll put those screws back in. I've cleaned those up a little bit. There was some funky white residue on those. I need to find my screwdriver, which, as usual, is hiding somewhere. There we go. Okay. Okay, last cleaned mouse ball goes back in here with the closure, and that's simply get screwed back into place. And we should have a functioning mouse. And we can take that to the IBM 80 and try it out. Unfortunately, I still haven't had time to fix my beloved IBM 5170. It's still sitting in the corner with something blown up. So I'll be testing the freshly restored mouse with my IBM ThinkPad X20, which had all of that nasty coating removed, and last time I turned it on actually worked. So let's hook it up to the PS2 port back here, which actually has a mouse symbol on it, and see if that works. Let's open this up, get this turned on, and fingers crossed. I forgot where the power button is. Ah, duh, right here in the middle. Seems to be turning on still. All I need to make sure is that the mouse is working properly and transmitting the signal correctly. I need to take this apart and change the CMOS battery at some point, but I'm not really using this that often, and plastics may be brittle. So, come on. And, haha, excellent. What? Why is there a German Windows 2000 on this? Based on NT technology. Ooh. Typical Microsoft progress bar, almost done, but takes the longest on the last 99%. Any day now. Alright, it's finally all loaded up, and it looks like the mouse is moving properly. So let's zoom in a little bit and just
check for correct functionality here. Sorry for the rapid movement. So we'll click, and that works. The program cannot run on the system. Interesting. Okay, so mouse cursor moves, right button works, left button works, left, right, and there we go. One working pretty mouse. Now I just need to get back to my IBM AT and get that up and running. So I hope this was interesting, although you didn't get to see this working on the IBM 5170. But yeah, that will be addressed in another episode, hopefully soon. So thank you for watching.